Welcome. This is To Our Core with Katie Murray, and this is the place where we peel back our layers to uncover who we really are at our centre, at our core. And think of it as a chat with your bestie, the one who can make you laugh until your belly hurts, who is ridiculously unfiltered, and will lovingly call you forward to help you cut through the noise and get real with yourself. Around here, nothing is off limits, and we are mixing this up with equal parts humour and heart, so let's dive right in. Hey, beautiful friends, and welcome back to the show. I am so glad that you're here today because we are diving into one of those Instagram-worthy wellness tools that you've probably seen floating around your feed, thanks algorithm, and that is affirmations. Now, you may have heard a lot about affirmations. You may have seen on your news feed that, repetition is the key, and if you just say things enough times that it will change the way you think. And you may be left going, okay, well, I've thought a lot of thoughts over and over again of what I would like to call into my life, and it's not happening. You may have thought of those statements that says, I am unstoppable. I am confident. I am Beyonce. And yet somehow, even though you're saying them 100 times in the mirror every single day, you can't understand why you still don't feel that confident. You don't feel unstoppable. And unless something wild has happened overnight, you might not still feel like Beyonce. And I can tell you that I do feel like Beyonce sometimes when I'm in the shower singing my little heart out. And also I can tell you that I am still not her. And my bank account certainly does not reflect Beyonce's bank account. So does that mean that affirmations don't work? Does that mean that repetition doesn't rewire our brain? Because that's how Instagram makes it look. Like if you just say things enough time, you will absolutely be able to change your beliefs. And it's a little more complex than that. It's a yes and also a no in terms of its effectiveness. Affirmations can absolutely be powerful. And also when you leave them hanging on their own, like some kind of motivational sticky note that you think if you put it on the fridge, and every time you go to the fridge, if it's anything like me, I go multiple times a day, that somehow I'm just going to embody these new beliefs. Well, today I'm going to be really taking away some responsibility from you in regards to thinking that this is your fault and there's something just wrong with you. We are instead going to be unpacking why affirmations alone won't rewire your brain. I know it's not popular Instagram because that's what you want us to believe, and also it's a little bit more complicated than that. Complicated in the best possible way because there's some really easy strategies that I plan to give you today that are going to be able to help you reshape your beliefs and therefore your behaviors. Because this is not just a matter of us just going, we'll just change our thoughts, okay? However, when we are able to change our thoughts, that is then going to create a space where we can change our beliefs of what we actually believe in. And when we change our beliefs, our behavior follows. Our behavior follows. And it's all inground and embedded in the beliefs and thoughts that we have. So we're going to unpack this, and we're going to start with, first of all, looking at the brain. And I know it's going to feel a little bit sciencey, and I promise you don't need to go to Snooze Town. I'm going to keep it short and very friendly in terms of listening. And it's also really important that you understand that you are not failing at your affirmations just because you are not one with the earth and taking more deep breaths, and you are a failure at being able to change your thoughts. Because I can tell you, you have really great success of creating thoughts. It's just more a question of whether or not you've created thoughts that are supporting you in the direction that you want to go in. So I want you to think of your brain as plastic. And I'm not talking about the rigid type like your Tupperware container that probably has a missing lid. If you're anything like me, my Tupperware drawer has a lot of containers and a lot of lids, and none of them match up. And I am wondering, are my Tupperware lids living on a magical island somewhere with also the missing socks that are also present in my life, because I put those socks together, I am sure, in the washing machine, and then I pull it out and voila, they're gone, off somewhere, enjoying their party time with the Tupperware lids. No, your brain is plastic like Play-Doh. I want you to think about it as moldable and adaptable, and sciencey people may refer to this as neuroplasticity, which effectively just means that your brain can change. And this might be bad news to some people who like to kind of talk about their brain as though this is just the way I am. Well, I'm here to poo-poo that idea, because your brain is only the way that it is because you are choosing not to change it. Your brain is only the way it is because you are choosing not to change it, not because it has an inability to change. Your brain can change. It can reshape. It can rewire itself, and it's based on your experiences, your thoughts, and your actions. And I want you to think about your brain like a grassy field. Every time you think a thought, you're walking a little path through the grass. And the more you think that thought, the more you trample down the grass until eventually it is a very well-worn dirt track. You know the one. You've probably been bushwalking before in your life. And you can go down the path that is most trodden. I think there's even a poem about that. Anyway, you can go down the path that is well trodden, or you can look to your left and right and you can see overgrown bracken and grass and branches and all of those kind of things that are obscuring the path. And you know what your brain loves more than anything in the world? And that is ease. It loves routine and patterns, so that it is all very clear as to where to go, how to go with the least amount of effort. So when we're creating a new thought, a new path, it is going to take over and over and over again walking that thought in order to create the new track. And sometimes it might feel a little bit tedious, and there are ways in which I'm going to offer today that might support you in creating a environment where your thoughts, your new thoughts that you want to create for yourself, come more readily and available to you in that space of ease. Because when we think about a path that is well worn, that is effectively what a belief is. It's a path that you've walked over and over again. So if your path, for example, is I am not good enough, your brain has just built a super highway in that direction, okay? Because it loves ease, and you've practiced it enough times, and you've found plenty of evidence to be able to support that. And the good news also is that we can build new paths, and that's neuroplasticity in its essence at work. So when you use it in the way of affirmations, affirmations is like consciously being aware that I want to create a new path. So going back to the bushwalking scenario, if you were to go along a path and you were about to walk a groove and a path that had been well worn before, that would be really easy, yeah? Instead, creating a new affirmation or creating a new thought that you want to adopt would be about looking left and going, okay, I want to see what leads me at the end of the destination of that path if I went left. And it's a little bit overgrown and there's plenty of stuff in the way. However, if you walk down that alternative route and you go left and you beat your way through it and you stomp it down and you keep returning back and forth to get to that new destination, then you are going to create a new pathway. Like that superhighway, like you did with the I'm not good enough. However, if you don't, if you even just walk it once, if you even just walk down saying I am good enough just once, and you beat through that bush and then you don't come back and visit it for a month, then what's going to have happened on that path? The grass is going to have grown back. The branches will grow back over again. and you're left opting for the same old route that's well worn, which in that scenario might be, I'm not good enough. So here's the deal. Your brain won't rewire itself just because you've said some nice statements to yourself in the mirror. If that worked, then I can guarantee you that I would be a billionaire, because I would be standing in front of that mirror saying, I am a billionaire with a six-pack, sitting at my beach house, drinking cocktails. You know, and who wouldn't want that? That sounds quite nice, yes? And also, if it was that easy, we'd all be there, okay? Instead, when you say an affirmation like, I am confident, and you deep down in your core don't feel like it, you don't feel confidence, in fact, you might feel like a nervous potato, your brain is going to throw up a little red flag, and it's going to say something like, Scuzzy Pip, we do not have any evidence to support this claim, and so therefore I'm going to deny it. The computer says no. That's how your brain's going to work. So it's not that affirmations in itself are useless. However, they do need three things to actually land in order to rewire your brain and create that automatic loop that you need in order to make the ease that your brain is going to choose to go there and create a belief from the thought that's then going to embed into your actions and your behaviors. And the first one is repetition. I know, it doesn't sound sexy. However, repetition is, or can be, sometimes the boring cousin of motivation, in the respect that on day one of your new, like, I am a person that is fit and like goes to the gym every day, you might feel a surge of motivation at the start, yeah? However, for you to become a fit person, you are most likely going to have to show up on the days even when motivation doesn't exist. And it's the repetition of showing up over and over and over again that will increase your fitness. And that is effectively what your brain needs. Remember the path analogy? Well, you've got to walk the new path enough times for it to become a real track. And so you might be saying, yes, okay, I get it. That's exactly what my Instagram feed is telling me, and that I just repeat it over and over again. And why is it still not working? Saying an affirmation once is like walking into a field and stepping out and saying, why is there not a road here yet? So you may have already practiced the repetition over and over again and still be going, hang on a second, Katie, but there's no road here yet. And yes, repetition is important as part of affirmation. And also it's really important that it's not robotic. If you say it 50 times, like, I am the most beautiful woman that ever walked the earth, whilst scrolling TikTok, your brain is not impressed. Which actually brings me to the next strategy in order to implement and change the way in which we think, believe, and show up, and that's emotion. Okay, this is the magic ingredient. Your brain learns best when there is a feeling attached to the thought. And I want you to think about it. You probably don't remember what you had for lunch 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday. And you may also definitely remember your most embarrassing moment from high school. And can I just say, I've got a few. But when I think back on my high school, one comes really quickly to mind, and that is when I was standing up and I was doing a musical performance in high school. I was probably in grade 9, and I had my buddy old pal sitting alongside me, and he was playing the guitar and I was singing, and it was a ballad. And can I just say, I was doing a pretty good job at the start. Okay, I was singing, it was emotive, I could see that the audience was spellbound, they were loving it, they were lapping it up until I got a little tickle in my throat. And you probably know the one, it's like that really dry tickle that you know if you start coughing you're not going to be able to stop. And I'm not sure really what happened, like on a physiological level. But I can tell you that my throat restricted. My vocal cords tightened up real tight as I'm trying to suppress the tickle in my throat. And what happened was that for the next 2 verses and about 3 choruses, my voice would only come out sounding like a strangled mouse in a mousetrap. It was high-pitched, it was squeaky, it was embarrassing. And when I wasn't doing that awful noise through the microphone whilst I was trying to sing a ballad, I was spluttering on stage. And it got to the point that it was so bad that my guitarist actually took the mic from me and started singing, which was, I mean, I don't know what was worse, because having a microphone taken off you while you're on stage because you sound so terrible and he's trying to save you, and then to stand up there with no microphone, also still spluttering. I think my face was probably the shade of beetroot. And if the earth had have just sucked me up and said, now is the time, Katie, now's the time to go. It was a nice life, but see you later. I probably wouldn't have been too sad about it. It was a moment. And you know what? I can recall that so easily, and I can recall that so quickly, and I can immediately feel the emotions that I felt, whilst graphic details of seeing the somewhat horrified, somewhat amused audience as they tried to suppress their giggles while I was being a strangled mouse on stage. That became so easy for me to be able to recall rather than what I ate 3 weeks ago for lunch. And that's because our emotion stamps memories in the brain. So when you repeat an affirmation and you've got a feeling to go alongside it, instead of saying flatly, I am so confident, I want you to try and remember a time where you felt even a tiny spark of confidence and connect that feeling to the words. And it might even be that you need to actually change your state before you say your affirmation. And it might be that you change your physiology. You put your shoulders back, you put your chin up, you take some deep breaths, and you really truly connect with that feeling of confidence before saying, I am confident. Because when you do connect that feeling with the statement, your brain says, oh, okay, hang on a second, this matters. Let's keep it. The third aspect or ingredient of this is micro actions. And this is where a lot of people drop the ball, because maybe you're across this. Maybe you've been saying the statements and you've been changing your state and you've been able to embody that feeling. Let's use confidence as an example. So you are feeling confident and you are saying the statement and you're repeating it and you're thinking, great, okay, it's still not working, Katie. This is bullshit. The next step that I'm about to talk through is kind of crucial, and it's where a lot of people don't follow through, because you can repeat and feel all you want. And if your actions don't line up, your brain's not convinced. And you've got to prove this to your brain in small, doable ways, in the micro actions. You know how I said before about the fact that if you were saying a statement that your brain doesn't believe, it's going to throw up a red flag and say, I don't have evidence to support this. Well, this is the evidence part. Okay? This is when you would say, such as an affirmation like, I'm confident in speaking up. That might be something that you really want to change the way you think, believe, and behave. Your micro action might be as simple as asking a question in a meeting. Or it might be about sharing an idea with a friend and actually giving life to the thought and the feeling by actually saying it out loud and putting it out there in the universe. Tiny steps. Every single time you take one, it's like you're laying those bricks on the new path. So how do you actually pull all of this together? Well, I've got 3 practical strategies that you can start today. First of all, I'd invite you to pair your affirmation with a habit, something that you already do, something that you don't think about necessarily. You know how we don't go through our day thinking about every single tiny, minute step, decision, or action that we take, like brushing our teeth or making a coffee or even going for a walk with the dog. This is where you can implement those new affirmations with something that's already really ingrained for you. Okay, something that you already do so daily that it's second nature. And I want you to think about like when you were learning to drive a car. When you first got into a car, if you were anything like me, you were consciously aware of everything, particularly because I learned to drive in a manual. I would be thinking, clutch in, start the car, move it from first to second by putting the clutch in and out, accelerating, getting the perfect balance between the accelerator and the clutch, etc. So you didn't rev the ring out of the car. Okay. Now, as an adult and 25 years of driving later, I don't think at all about, I need to put my indicator on here, or I need to turn right or left. It just, sometimes how you drive from home to work and it's such a well-worn path for your brain that you sometimes get there and say, was I even conscious while I drove there? Because I have no recollection. It's because your brain doesn't need to generate that amount of energy towards what you're doing because it's so second nature. And I want you to do this in line. So putting it with something that's like second nature to you, and also using affirmations that embody evidence. So instead of, and you do this by using like because statements. So instead of saying something like, I am worthy, what if instead you tried, I am worthy because I care deeply about people and I show up for them? Adding the why can really help your brain accept the statement instead of rejecting it, and celebrating the micro wins. I don't think we celebrate stuff that we do anywhere near as much. In fact, we give a lot of airtime to the moments where we haven't perhaps done the things that we would like to celebrate. We're very rehearsed, very well practiced on being able to draw all of the laser focus to those times where perhaps we haven't nailed it. Instead, I want to invite you into micro celebrations. And every time you take a small action that aligns with your affirmation, acknowledge it. Make your brain take notice. Make your brain understand that this is something worth paying attention to. High five yourself in the mirror. There's a whole thing with Mel Robbins called the high five habit, where it actually changes neurology by repeating the action of high fiving yourself in the mirror. If you want to read it, it's accessible, very readily accessible. You could do a little dance. So once again, embodying physiology into the celebration allows you to feel more deeply into it. Or maybe it's even that you text a friend and go, oh my God, I just want to have a moment. Guess what I just did? And this is exactly what I said I was going to do. And your brain thrives on reward. It's how you reinforce the new pathway. And you might be sitting there going, okay, Katie, if my brain thrives on reward, why have I been able to establish such unhelpful thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors? If I'm not rewarding myself for that, I'm actually beating myself up. Well, and this might be controversial to some people, there is a reward in your suffering. There is a reward in your suffering. You may not be consciously aware of it. However, the familiarity of it, the rehearsing of it, the known predictable outcome of I'm going to do this and then I'm going to feel shit about myself and then I am going to feel very familiar in this feeling, actually acts as a reward for your brain, because our brain loves familiarity, it loves routine, it loves patterns. And so if you have paired a thought or a belief with a sensation of, well, this is what we've always known and this is what we've always done, that is an unconscious reward to your brain because it's what it loves. So I want you to pivot and think instead about how we can change the reward system in our brain to really take a moment to actually be able to acknowledge it and be able to celebrate the actions that we want to bring more attention to, the ones that align with the new thought, the new belief, the new pathway. So here's your takeaway. Affirmations in themselves aren't bad. I actually think they're a really beautiful tool. And if you want to rewire your brain, they are going to need repetition, emotion, and action. Your brain is not set in stone. So, and if you're in my company and I hear you say, that's just the way I am, I am going to challenge that because that's a choice. And the next question would be, is that a choice you want to maintain? Instead of like outsourcing, we've talked about cause and effect, instead of saying this is just the way I am and like it's very futile, then I want to ask you, is being who you are, is holding on to those thoughts and those beliefs and those behaviors serving you in getting to the direction that you want to go in? Because if not, then we can call in neuroplasticity and we can do this differently. If you want to be moldable and you want to be shapeable and you want to open yourself up to possibility, or you could choose to keep going down the same paths with the same thoughts and the same beliefs and the same behaviors. And also that's a choice. You're not this passive observer in your life. You have the power to reshape your brain, literally. Like, I mean, pardon the pun, but it's almost mind-blowing in regards to we can actually change the physical structure and neural pathways that make up our automatic thoughts and our go-to ways of beliefs. We can build new beliefs if the ones that we currently have aren't serving us. And we can create new behaviors that actually do serve you. And who knows, if you keep practicing, you may even become Beyonce. You never know. And also, do we need two Beyoncés? Perhaps you could just become more you to your core. You can definitely, absolutely become more confident and the most empowered, most boldest, most brilliant version of you. And you get to be the driver, not the passenger, the driver, in the driver's seat with the wheel of control around what that looks like for you. And that's even better. That's even better than being Beyonce. I hope this episode has given you some really practical tools to play with and also a reminder that your brain is beautifully changeable too. Until next time, let's go walk some new paths. Thanks for spending time with me today on To Our Core. If something landed in your heart or gave you a much needed giggle, consider sharing it with a friend who also may need this as a timely reminder. And go on. You know you want to. Give me a 5-star review so that this podcast can land in the ears of many, many more people. Because remember that life is too short to stay on the surface. Keep living, loving, and laughing all the way to your core. Go make life great. And if you want support around this, go to the show notes to find out more. Until next time, I'll meet you back here with more truth, laughter, and a whole lot of heart.